Welcome. I hope you enjoy the conversation you're about to see between me and another comedian about religion and comedy. These are conversations I'm calling disorganized religion. God bless. And for those atheists out there, may nothing await you after this life.
All right. Hey, nerds. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Disorganized Religion. I am your host, Seth Lawrence, as always. And this episode, I am joined by not one, but two fantastic comics, Drew Shafer and Aurora Singh. Thank you both so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. I'm excited too. I admittedly do not know you as well, Drew. I know Aurora through Travis Grossi, through Travis, but I have not yet really got to, I haven't had the pleasure of booking Drew on any of the shows that I've done in the past. So I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better through this experience. And Aurora, I don't really know, obviously, personally. I know her comedy a little bit better because she came and performed at one of the cleanup shows that I was doing back in the before times. So this is going to be fun for me to get to know both of you.
That was back in 2019. That's so weird.
I know, forever ago. How long has this last year felt for both of you?
As newlyweds, as comedians, just terribly long.
Yeah, I forgot what comedy is. Like, I watch comedy now and I'm like, is that what you're supposed to do? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's been the longest year of my life.
Yeah. When did you two get married? Did you get married right before the pandemic or during the pandemic?
Yeah. February 16th, 2020.
So honeymoon? Was there a honeymoon?
Yeah, so we were we went on a 2-week honeymoon.
Okay.
We were planning on going on a short mini moon and then booking a trip, like a bigger trip later, because the wedding was a lot of money. Like, weddings and honeymoons, all that stuff is a lot. So we're like, oh, let's spread it out. And then eventually I was like, let's just do it all at one time. Thank God. I decided to just say, let's do it all together back to back, because when our last day that we were in Ireland was, or the second to last day we were in Ireland, was the day Italy had 7 deaths of COVID and shut down, and Italy shut down. And so we got back and it was literally a week later and the school district shut down, like everything. I was so happy we got it in. Like, I feel terrible people are dying, but
yeah. And I mean, we had friends who had weddings like planned in the middle of the pandemic and they all lost deposits or had to go from 200 people to
or they're not together anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Have they, you know, people who've called off weddings?
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, what a blessing this then has been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been stuck together. So it's like, even if I wanted to stray, it's like, where would I go?
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go.
Same.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, if I'm going to risk my life or the life of old elderly loved ones to get out of this, it's definitely not where I should be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, holy smokes. February of 2020, you guys got married.
We were the last big event. Yeah.
Yeah, we were the last big event for everybody.
Almost like God cast judgment on your union.
We're so sorry. We actually want to come out with a public apology to everybody for getting married, because clearly this pandemic is about us and our union, and we're the reason it happened.
I think you should be the next couple that Oprah interviews, to be honest.
I mean, it's like similar vibes. Similar situation.
Yeah. I don't talk to some of my family anymore because of how they treated her. So
are they worried about how brown your kids are going to be?
Without saying it, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, we are. Oh my God. Stop. You're like Oprah. And we are literally like, without saying it, you can draw the conclusions.
Yeah.
I love that this interview is almost the polar opposite of the Oprah and Royals interview. One is like the pinnacle of femininity. I am far from the pinnacle of masculinity. That's great. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. So how long had you two known each other before getting married?
We met in 2014.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
5.5 years before we got married. So yeah,
That's it?
that's it.
I thought it was 6.5.
No,
Are you sure?
it's 6.5 now.
No, 6.5.
She's not good at math. I'm the
Oh,
math
No,
guy.
it was 5.5.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Well,
yeah,
good.
5.5 years. And yeah. It's a long
And
time.
were you both doing comedy, doing stand-up by the time you'd met each other, or when had you each started doing stand-up?
So Drew started a year before I did.
Mm.
And the story goes like this. I went to go, I wasn't doing stand-up really in entertainment, never did it. Met a comedian who I thought was super hot. I was like totally into him. And I was like, oh my God, like, how do you get started in this? Like, it just seems like so much fun. Like, I'm just trying to bone, like that's
sure.
it.
And that was Travis. That was
And then I was like, oh no, he's gay. Yikes.
I just love that I met Travis, and my first thought was, why is this guy flirting with Aurora? Like, I was so jealous because I didn't right away. Like,
that's
he just
great.
seems so charming.
And he told me that, and I was like,
Sure.
Drew, Travis loves dick. Like, he is so gay. And that's what Travis told me. I was like, no, he's a gay man. Like, you have nothing to worry about. But no, I met this hot comedian, and then I went to an open mic that he invited me to. And then I met Drew there.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, plot twist.
Yeah, she settled for me. She went from hot comedian who was like one of the most influential TikTokers when it first came out. And now she's with
doing
me.
Pretty well. He's doing pretty well.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, but Drew is funnier, clearly.
They're funny in different ways.
Yeah, we're funny in different ways. Yeah.
All right. We need to change topic. Change topic very quickly. So your brown kids, are you excited, or how do you feel?
I'm so ready to have kids.
Aurora needs to wait. Like, she's like,
I'm just bored and need a job. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Or a pet? Do you have any pets? Some people
we have
replace.
a pet.
You have a pet, and it's not good enough.
It's not filling the void.
I agree. I mean, people who talk about their pets as kids, I think, should stab themselves. It's not.
I mean, we do say he's our son, but
well,
I would.
You should stab yourself.
No,
what kind of pet do you have? A dog?
Yeah, a little Chihuahua.
Oh, adorable.
Is this a moment where we bring him on? Because we can.
If you want.
Okay.
If you want, let's meet him. Let's meet the Chihuahua.
It's the ultimate Zoom call thing. Is somebody brings their pet out at some point.
Perfect.
I hope no one noticed that I wasn't wearing a bra.
Oh, good boy.
Look how cute he is.
Look at this is Taz.
Oh, Taz.
He's like 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he was taking a little nap when I interrupted.
He does not look pleased.
No.
I got him from a pound because he was the only dog not barking, and he looked scared, and I was like, oh my God, same. And so I took him.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Oh, that's adorable. All right. So Drew, so Taz came with Aurora, essentially.
Yes.
It was a package deal. You started dating a single mom is what you did.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing that really drew my attention to Aurora was she told this joke about how when Taz poops, he always turns to make direct eye contact no matter where she's standing.
Wow.
It's a sweet, like, intimate moment that only him and I ever shared. So
yeah, sure.
And then she dropped the mic between her legs very slowly, like a soft serve ice cream machine. And I was like, I'm into this girl because she committed. And
as mimicking the poop.
As mimicking the poop. She was like, and this is how he poops. And I was like, wow.
And then I pretend like the cord of the mic is a hair that he ate, and it's like now swinging.
Wow. Yeah.
She committed to the bet.
Graphic.
So ladies, if you guys want some tips on how to get a man and get married and lock him down, all you got to do is just commit to being funny and don't half-ass a joke. If you're gonna tell a joke.
Yeah.
Right. Clearly. Now, for those who have not seen either of you perform, how would you each describe let's maybe have you each describe the other's comedy. I find it a little bit difficult to describe like my own.
Ooh.
Don't look at me like that, like
This
all
is gonna be
scared.
fun.
So Drew, you said, you were drawn to Aurora's sort of physicality in her jokes. How else would you describe her comedy for those who have not seen Aurora perform?
Also, that was my first set ever that he's talking about. So that was I guess
2014.
Yes, 6.5 years ago that I did that. So
yeah,
what is it now?
What is your
what's her comedy become?
So Aurora's like a storyteller. So she has all these stories from her life. She's led a very interesting, unique life, and she can tell it in a relatable, charismatic way. Like, she's not going out of her way to make like a silly punchline. She's not making puns. She's just telling her life story in such a funny, engaging way that you're like, I'm along for the ride. Where's this going to go? Okay, this is hilarious.
Right.
Oh gosh, that's good.
I mean,
that makes me sound good.
For that level of incorporating what you have to work with on stage, for a first set to be incorporating the mic in an act out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty advanced stuff. I struggle figuring out how can I use the mic stand in a way that's not a mic stand or a phallus, right? What is a clever way to do it? So props. I totally understand why Drew was drawn to you.
Thank you.
All right, Aurora, it's your turn. How would you describe Drew's comedy?
When Drew is completely himself on stage, 100% himself, he is very quirky, nerdy, but very like overly confident in his unsureness.
Interesting.
And his awkwardness. Like, he's like because he's a very intelligent person.
Yeah.
But he's really not street smart and doesn't really get like social cues. Like, he's like kind of distant when it comes to like social cues and like social norms. So he's so awkward, but he's so confident in his facts. So the two and two just melt together on stage in this hilarious, like confidently awkward comedian who has clever jokes. They're super witty, but they're said with like a smile on his face at all times. So you can't help but laugh and like enjoy yourself when you're watching him.
Oh,
I love that. That's great. The other thing that I love is you immediately started with a bit of a veiled criticism. So what prevents Drew from being himself? How do you know he's not being himself on stage?
Because sometimes, so Drew will overthink things a lot, like all the time. And sometimes when we have sets with like really big names or like heavy hitting comedians, or if he hasn't done it in a while, he'll be like, okay, how do I be funny? Okay, punchline, witty, this is a joke, this is a joke, this is a joke. But then the times where Drew is miserable and he's like, it all, I'm gonna go up there, like nothing matters, I'm quitting after this set, I don't care. He'll go up there and he's so himself that it's just like there's nothing holding him back. So he's just like funny and he's not trying. He's like himself, because one of the things that drew me to Drew funny was that he's like very funny and like witty and creative and awkward on his own. So when he's angry and he goes up on stage, it's like perfect.
Gotcha. Interesting. So what motivates that for you, on the inside, Drew, as part of the creator of your own comedy? What do you, I guess really the question is for both of you. We'll transition over to Aurora in a second, because we all try to find our voice on stage. So I feel like what we're talking about is Drew actually tapping into that voice, which, I think we all sort of struggle with from time to time.
Totally.
So what gets you into that zone? What gets you into that apparently miserable, just perfect place for the Drew comedy?
What
does it?
Because it's interesting, because like my perspective on it is that I grew up so sheltered, like my mom extremely agoraphobic, stay home, never go outside, never hang out with friends, like, so I don't know any social stuff. So I'll like
super religious. So he was like just with all church kids all the time, praising the Lord.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very awkward, because now like trying to be a cool grown up and like trying to be a comedian where everybody does drugs and like partied, like I didn't party till
we met. No, just kidding.
Yeah, my super senior year in college.
Yeah, so basically right before we met.
Yeah. So like I miss everything where like I did a show on New Year's Day and it was like there was this situation where a guy parked in the wrong spot. He was blocking somebody's driveway and it was this whole big thing. And I was just sort of like, oh, so you're the guy who parked in somebody's driveway? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like ready to just move on.
Did you just like he doesn't understand like the social like
it's like, oh, you're kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, my crowd work is just awkward, like not knowing how to interact with other humans and trying for a split second. And then something weird will happen. And so it's the same when I get like in a zone where I'm like, I'm very angry. I'm going to start talking about it. Oh, people are laughing. Why are they laughing at my anger? This makes me more angry. And then it just goes crazy.
Yeah.
It's like really your voice is the guy that is trying to communicate sincerely, but no one takes seriously. And that drives you crazy.
And I think it's the overbite too, because like everybody's like, oh, you smile all the time. I'm like, no, it's just my teeth. I just can't.
Interesting.
So I'm like trying to be angry and it looks like this. So people are like, oh, he's silly. He's not actually angry.
Adorable. I mean,
isn't that adorable?
It is adorable. And some of it might be this religious background. I don't feel like I can be quite as, sinister or blue and be believable as that either. So it might just be, those are kind of the cards we're dealt.
Which I think that's like, because I grew up super religious too. And I just was talking to another comedian the other day and they were like, oh, do you have a clean set? And I was like, I actually don't really like curse, because they asked me if I cursed in my set. And I was like, I don't know, I don't really curse. And I think that's from my religious background, because I'm just like scared to do it in front of a lot of people. I'll do it every once in a while, but yeah, it's just different. Like there's some things that just hold you back still on stage. But I think that it's kind of a superpower, because if you are a little bit more clean and you're just like clever and funny or like completely yourself, then you get more shows and get more opportunities, because you're not just going out there being like, my dick is huge.
Right.
Because that's how I started in comedy, by being like, my dick is huge. And then someone was like, go a little deeper. And I was like, all right, I'll try better.
Of course. Yeah. I think there is a lot of versatility. I kind of look at being a clean comic or trying to work on clean material versus just being, dirty or unfiltered. It's sort of like the light side and the dark side of the force.
Yeah.
One, you might excel really quickly into the club scene, and the other takes some time, but ultimately more powerful.
That's true.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was good.
I was actually sort of thinking about that today too. I was thinking about that because I was like, I'm a clean comedian, and I get this like weird feeling at open mics where the comedians are so blue. I'm like, you're pigeonholing yourself. You'll never be able to work at clubs. And I'm like, well, I'm not really working at clubs either.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm like, they might actually pass me. They might get there first.
I mean, they might, but they're not going to be the ones that get corporate gigs, and people kind of poo-poo corporate gigs. But as far as, making money, that's really the best way to go. Corporate cruises.
If you're trying to quit your day job to be a comedian, like you want those, that's how you do it. You can make so much money from it.
So what do you think? Do you think it's easier to, I mean, I don't know. I guess this is a loaded question, so I'll just say what I think about it. I feel like you can always work bluer, but it's a lot more difficult to edit on stage in a clean scenario. You know what I mean? If you're used to working blue, you ingrain certain jokes and it becomes difficult to be like, oh, I actually should tell that one in a different way instead of like
change
fired.
It from blue to
Right.
Yeah. I know, I agree with that. I did a gig at a Relay for Life. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's basically
I can kind of put together what that means, but I have not heard of that.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, so it's the American Cancer Society.
It's a good name because you can tell.
The Relay for Life.
Right.
Yep.
It's descriptive. If you were like Relay for Life, it's where people skydive. I'd be like, oh, I have never heard of that. What is that?
So yeah, 24-hour event. You walk around a track all night. You raise money different ways, and it all goes to the American Cancer Society. So one of my maybe 2 or 3 years into doing stand-up comedy, the person who put it together was like, Drew, you do stand-up comedy. Do you want to do a spot at 2 a.m.? And I was like, 2 a.m., perfect. All the kids will be asleep. Sweet. And
Or
literally
up again.
I didn't even think about it. So yeah, she's like, okay, now Drew's gonna take the stage. And then she literally is like, and kids, come up front because we're about to do the costume contest. So she sets all the kids in costumes right in front of me.
2 a.m.
2 a.m.
It's
Yeah.
a party
Wow.
out there trying to save cancer. They're like, no one sleeps.
Yeah.
Cancer doesn't sleep, so
Yeah.
neither do we.
Yeah. And it was the worst.
I just made that
set.
up, but that was
pretty
really
We
good.
should use
That
that.
is
should
really,
tell
that
them
should be
to
their
use-
tagline.
Yeah, but that was great.
That was
Okay,
awesome.
That was amazing.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, that was a bad set. That's
Yeah,
But-
that's tough.
I just basically, it was like all setups. Like I would start telling the joke and then realize it was going to end in like a innuendo or like a sex joke. And like pretty much every joke was just set up. Oh yeah, there's kids here. And so it was just miserable
Right.
for 10
Right.
minutes, I think. It was just all setups and like 2 jokes.
Ugh.
Yeah, but I mean, they should have warned you, you know?
That's-
I mean, at
I mean,
least I
it's a
guess now
small
you
town.
know every time, just be like, okay, will there be kids aware and present?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like if it's a normal show and then you show up and they're like at comedy club or something, they're like, oh, it needs to be PG. I would be like, but it's a comedy show. Like they should just know that they're bringing their kids to a comedy show. Obviously, I'm going to respect the rules, but I'm like,
Right.
I'm still going to, if the kids aren't going to get the sexual innuendos, I'm going to say them.
Yeah.
Sure. I
'Cause
mean,
they'll
it's like
go right
an
over
adult
their head.
cartoon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not going to know.
Really.
And if they
So-
do know, if they learn, good
Yeah.
for them.
Right. Why not? Why not have education at 2 a.m.? There's nothing like a forced sex ed class at 2 a.m. in a
They could-
costume,
They could use it out there, honestly.
Yeah,
That's
we really could.
it's
Yeah.
a good place.
right? No, it's true. I mean, they're already learning about cancer. If they're going to learn about death, they might as well learn about life.
There you go.
That's actually, yeah, that's true.
That's another good. That's it. They should be using these. Like,
We should send it. Drew, send this episode to them.
Yeah.
Here's some marketing on the house.
Not on the house. It's a pandemic. I need to check. Thank you.
We'll take any form, PayPal,
Yep.
Venmo.
Thank you.
What about for you, Aurora? What has been kind of your cataclysmic moment, or what mindset do you need to get into to be your funny persona self on stage?
Oh God, I have no idea. I feel like I don't know. I've never thought about that because I feel like I go on stage and I am pretty much myself like all the time now. Like I haven't really had that moment on stage in the past couple years where I've like been on stage and felt uncomfortable or awkward or out of my head. Or like in my head in a bad way, I guess.
Right.
I guess I just need a microphone and some lights.
And an audience. One or two
I mean,
people to
an
listen.
audience would be great, but you know how it is. Sometimes it's a hit or
Yeah.
miss.
Yes, I do. I do know how it is. That's great. That's great. Sweet.
Yeah.
So what drew both of you to comedy? Why stand up for each of you?
Well, mine was a hot guy.
Right.
Mine
Oh, yes,
too.
that's right. So
Yeah.
did you go did you go to this open mic knowing this guy was a comic and that you wanted to do a set to impress him? That was
Yes.
the plan from day one.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Wow.
I've been a fan of comedy always. Like when I turned 18, one of the first things I wanted to do was go to a comedy show on my own at the Sacramento Punchline. And
Wow.
I saw Joe Coy and I just was like a huge fan of him before. And I saw he was coming through town. So I was like, yeah, doing that a month after my 18th birthday, got tickets. I was super excited. So I'd always been a fan. And then I've always wanted to be in entertainment, but my mom is an immigrant. So there's no way you can be happy or successful if you do anything else but be a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher.
Yep.
So I was never allowed to pursue it. But so when I met this hot comedian, I was forced to go to his show. And I was graduating college really, really soon. And I was like, okay, well, it's a stage and a microphone and it's entertaining. So like, and he's hot. It doesn't hurt to just go do it. I mean, I'm almost
Sure.
done with college. And like, if for some reason this pops, like, I don't know if this is anybody else. I feel like this is a lot of people. They were like, I'm going to get on stage and then someone's going to see me.
I mean, I still think that. I'm still hoping for that day.
I am too, but like, you know, when you're just so hopeful in the beginning, you're like, this is it. Like, I'm gonna go on. It's gonna be like a movie. They're gonna be like, listen to this, and it's gonna like they're gonna listen to my poop joke about my chihuahua, and they're gonna be like, get her on Netflix. This is crazy that she's not. So I thought, you know, I was like, I'm almost done with college. If something pops off, then this is good time.
And what were you studying in college? Were you doing pre-med, pre-law? What were you doing?
I was pre-med, yeah. Pre-med.
Nice.
And I graduated with that, but like, it's community health sciences. But I'm just like, I don't even use my degree right now. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, of course. But that's how I got into it, and that's why I loved it. And I hit when I hit the stage the first time, I felt really comfortable, and I like just wanted to keep doing it. And then I was asked to do some shows, and it kind of just went from there.
Yeah.
What about you?
Cool. Yeah, what about you, Drew?
Mine's such a long story. I'll try to shorten it. I was thinking the whole time. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for going
that's
first.
Great. That's great.
So I tried out for the third grade talent show as
a
stand-up
this
comedian.
is a long story.
Yeah.
You were 30 years old. Let's
Third
speed it
grade.
up.
Third grade, I remember trying out. I was the only kid they didn't let into the actual talent show. They had like the tryouts, and then I was literally the only one who got cut. I was like, "What? Why did we have
you
tryouts?"
were doing stand-up?
I was doing stand-up.
Oh god.
And like
That's
I was
so
just
sad.
yeah.
They
looking
cut
back
you
the jokes
from a third grade talent show?
Yeah, and the winners did a dance to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. So like the level, there was no kids like doing grand piano playing. It was literally like lip syncing, dancing. But I did stand-up comedy. They said no. And then I just continued the rest of my life. I ignored their advice and kept being the funny kid.
I feel like that's like a glimpse into our future with our children.
Yeah.
Of
and
course
it is. And if I gotta tell you, if we have kids in the future and they want to do stand-up, I'm gonna smack them in the face and I'm gonna go, don't you dare. Don't
really?
You dare try.
You don't want them doing stand-up? Why not?
No, it's so hard. It's such a long road and there's so many ups and downs. I just want them to have stability and find something. Like, I just want them to have a regular paycheck and then, you know, live to go out on the weekends. Like, just live a normal life.
I mean, I feel like you're your mom right now.
I know. And
Yeah. Wow.
Something I've come to terms with.
I literally told her that earlier and she was like, don't ever say that. I was like, it's twice in one day.
Oh my gosh. I mean, but okay. So I want to hear the rest of Drew's story, and then I want to circle back to this idea of people in career paths that they hate, apparently. I mean, you can leave at any time, Aurora. Anyway, all right, Drew. All right, Drew. So why else? Why else?
So yeah, I just was like the theater kid, went to nationals and debate, like anything that I could be being funny doing, I was. And then the sad part of the story, if there's sad music, play it on your phones, everybody. My brother actually passed away from cancer. That's why I do the Relay for Life. And he had like a bucket list. And one of them was like a poker night thing. And we went to a casino in Reno. We were doing the poker night. And then one of my buddies was like, hey, I got to go. There's an open mic comedy show I'm going to. And I was like, I'm going to do that next week. And I
thought you were going to be like,
was on your brother's checklist, right? Or
it was sort of, yeah, like my brother was always funny. I was always funny. And so like, he was like a very like one-liner pun type person.
And they wrote a couple jokes together.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah, you forgot the best part of the story.
I always I don't know which parts are the best. Yeah, so
that's a good part.
Yeah, so
that's a good part.
He got to come to the first one, but he was like super weak. We like basically radiation, chemo, all the stuff like stopped working. So he came to the first one, but he was so tired. It was one of those like starts at 10:30 p.m., goes to 1 a.m. So he was like asleep, but he got to see my first time. And then after that, he passed away like 2 weeks later. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it just, you know how like comedians are damaged people? I think it was just like the wrong timing, like the radioactive spider biting me. It was just like, well, he died because my comedy, I got to keep doing it or something weird.
You killed your first time up.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so it's been, I keep trying to quit. And I think that's why it's when I'm best. Cause I'm like, I'm going to quit. And then I have an amazing set. Cause I'm like, it's my brother, like reminding me like, dude, you got to keep doing this. So
yeah, it's a very sweet thought.
Maybe.
So both of you are
pure.
like,
it's like the purest little soul in this one. Just like the purest little white teeth, white
Yep.
soul.
Yeah. It's great. You guys both have great teeth, great
Oh my God,
smiles.
thank you.
Thank you.
They're beautiful.
Aw.
Okay, so now I want to circle back because both of you now sort of alluded to this, like I want out aspect of stand-up. So kind of a two, first of all, I'll just say when I did law school, talking to any person who was a lawyer, their first knee-jerk reaction was don't do it. And I always thought, then retire, like get out of the way, because I would like to. And
Right.
you people are preventing me from doing it, right? Like you're taking up a job that you clearly don't want. So I'll just leave that there. Take it for what it's worth. But the other question is, what keeps you going? I mean, now granted, Drew has this sort of supernatural,
Right.
divine inspiration that keeps him going, which I think is beautiful. And I wholeheartedly believe in, by the way. Aurora, what keeps you coming back? Why? Just go be a doctor.
First of all, I love comedy and I love entertainment, and I truly believe that I'm really good at it. Even though I know I'm not the best, but I think I'm good. And
Sure.
I know that when I'm up on stage, I'm making at least one person feel better. Like there's no way one person doesn't feel. I am hilarious. So probably like 7 people at least.
Yeah.
Right. Like the whole crowd.
Probably.
All 7 of them.
All 7 of them.
Yeah.
The crowds that I'm selling out usually is around 7 or 8. So
right.
But no, I love stand up. It's just a lot of ups and downs. And one thing I also love is like money and traveling and like living a decent life. And it's really, I just spit a little bit. That's fine.
That's okay. We're in the same quarantine level. It's safe. Yeah.
I've been vaccinated. So it's I guess it just like, because I love it, it keeps me going when I like have people reach out to me and they're like, you made me smile today. Or last night I was having a bad week and tonight you made me laugh, or you're my favorite comedian on the show. Then that part is like the competitiveness, you know, all the highs keep me going from all the lows basically. And I just honestly don't really feel, even though I'm like educated and I have opportunities and I could get like a solid job if I wanted to, none of that motivates me or makes me as happy or makes me as fulfilled as being on stage.
Yeah.
And so so even when it sucks, like even when I'm like at the lowest of the low in comedy, I just think about how good it feels when it actually works out. So it's kind of like an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, he's so
addiction.
sweet. Yeah. He's so sweet. He brought me flowers after he punched me in the mouth, you know? Like that was so thoughtful.
He really cares. He cares. Yeah. You don't know him. You don't know him the way I do.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, wholeheartedly. So, okay. So if your daughter or son comes to you and is like, I want to do stand-up because it fulfills me, you're still going to be like, you're an idiot. Go do something else. I'm going to be like,
you were just around it too much from me and your dad. Like, just explore your options. Just make sure your you're ready for real. It. Right.
Yeah.
They're invalid. If anything, okay, it depends on what age. If they're like older, and they've like thought about it and they've seen it and they've been around it, okay. But if they're like, 10, 13, maybe even 14, I'd be like, you need to try more things.
Yeah.
I would say that for anything. I would say that for anything in life. Like anything that they're like, I'm obsessed with, I'd be like, just wait. Just
give it some time. You might stop liking BB Mac. It'll be
exactly
okay.
Like when I was 13, I was obsessed with butterfly hair clips. Like, give it some time.
Yeah.
I don't want our kid to come up and be like, I want to be a stand-up comedian, because I'll be like, you're not going to be funny. You come from a good house. Like, we didn't damage you.
I know. That's the other thing, is that we're going to be such good parents. Like, how are we going to be able to build a personality in someone?
Yeah.
When they have like so much love in the house.
It's not going to work.
Well, I mean, if you both achieve the success dreams you want, you won't be around very often. So there you go.
True.
Oh,
thank you.
That
makes me feel better.
Good.
That's actually,
I feel so much better.
Yeah.
We're going to neglect our kids. That's what's going to do. Yeah. Okay, good.
So it's all a nice cycle. It's a cycle of stand-up success, really.
Here we go.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be the parents taking your kids to an open mic when they're 10 to do jokes.
Unless I have to.
for your own stage time?
Yeah, I hope yeah.
Listen, this is a package deal. Okay.
Yeah.
If you like the kid, I'm doing the open. I'm opening for 15. Do you understand?
Exactly.
It's so funny. We actually, at the comedy club I worked at, had like a 10-year-old kid, but it was just his dad writing all of his jokes for him. And I was like, when I tried out in 3rd grade, they were all my jokes. That's why I didn't make it into the talent show.
I wish that you did get
so
into
much.
it.
I love so much that Drew's issue is that this kid is a hack.
Yeah.
That's what he's mad about.
Like, he would memorize it and his mom would be like rehearsing it backstage with him. And then like he would go out on stage and like mess it up because it's like, no 10-year-old kid uses that.
Yeah,
he's
right.
10 in a suit.
Okay. Well, now, did you watch, I don't know if you guys are like America's Got Talent fans. There was a kid that was on there, I think a couple of years ago, who like roasted judges.
I do.
How did you feel about that? I felt like
I do remember that. He definitely didn't write those.
That's kind of what I thought too. I don't think he wrote that.
No,
but good performer.
Not.
Good performer.
Just smart parents. That's what I think it is. It's like I'm funny, but it's going to be way funnier coming out of a kid.
Yeah, they don't have anything to relate to. That's the problem. Like, my 3rd grade joke was, I want to be able to be cool and wear my hat backwards, but I also want to keep the sun out of my eyes, so I need one pointing forwards. And then I like prop comedianed a hat that was forwards and backwards. I was like,
that's
now
beautiful.
I'm cool.
That is hilarious. And why would they not want that in their show?
I was like,
don't understand.
Yeah, why would they not want that? I kind of feel like you're a comic because you're jaded out of that experience. Like, you're denied a set at 3rd grade, and now you're chasing that, you know?
Yeah.
And
I know I would have crushed.
That's like normal, like childhood trauma that you're trying to fix in your adulthood.
And that's why my whole thing is like, I want to be cool, and I'm trying to be cool on stage, and people are like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Right. 100%.
That's when it comes to like speaking your truth on stage, because you can't try to be cool. You're not cool. And that's what's great about you, though. That's like the best part.
I'm not cool at all. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, there is something very relatable in wanting to belong and not feeling like you do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's
my niche.
That's a universal feeling.
Yeah.
What's interesting. Well, I want to now transition from feeling like you want to belong and not belonging. That's a great idea to have when we talk about religion. So, you, Drew, talked about coming from a very religious house, and Aurora, you said you came from a religious house as well. So, respectively, what religions did your families follow?
So I was like, when I first started out, just general like Christianity. It was just some random church. And then when I moved to a small town, it was a Baptist church.
By the way, this is a small town, like small town.
Okay, so which do you mind saying which town? Just
Fernley, Nevada. Fernley, Nevada. So it's 30 miles east of Reno.
Okay.
And it was the fastest growing city in the country for like 3 years in a row. It went from like 1,000 people to like 30,000 in like 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And then it stopped.
And it just stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Then 2008, the foreclosures. Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, the market downturn, of course.
Yeah, everybody was on subprime mortgages there. So like literally half the town had to leave. It was crazy.
Man. So now it's just a ghost town with a bunch of houses built.
And Tesla. Tesla Gigafactory is like 10 minutes away.
Opened up over there.
Oh, so it's going to boom again.
Yeah,
exactly. It is. Yeah, prices are going up in Reno for houses because all the people from the Bay Area are just going in, boop, paying cash.
Yeah. It's funny. The kind of, I don't know what you'd call that. It's not really the Midwest. It's like the slightly Eastern West from our perspective. Anyway. Yeah, my sister is trying to look for a house, and she's complaining about people coming in from California buying up, and she's in Utah, so it's sort of covering that whole area.
Oh, yeah.
And when we moved from North Carolina to California, our issue was the Chinese doing the same thing, coming over and buying up houses with cash. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we're basically the Chinese to Nevada and Utah, is what I'm saying. All right, so general Christian and then Baptist. So what was your experience like in the Baptist faith? Because I think my understanding of Baptist is that there is sort of a more relaxed version of Baptist, but were you in the more stringent
So-
you got to talk Christ all the time?
No, so it was pretty relaxed. I mean, like the pastor, he was like a biker dude, and he was just like very like, oh, I was doing drugs, I was at my lowest, and now I found Jesus, and it was like very fun, relaxed, great environment. So
Yeah.
it was really nice. Yeah.
But your mom was very sheltering.
Yeah, my mom being agoraphobic and very sheltering, it was like, don't talk about things and they don't exist. So don't talk to them about drugs. Don't let them take sex ed through to school. Don't let them
Drew has never taken sex ed. Like, he's a 30-year-old man and he's never had sex ed before.
Yeah, I mean, at least that sentence ended with Ed, Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine he gets it though. I mean, I think he's been
figured
educated.
it out, but
yeah. So, I mean, Drew, from your perspective, the sheltered, like negative, positive, and was it because of religion that you were sheltered, or was it just your mom's phobias?
I think it was just my mom's phobias, honestly, because like my mom was not religious as a kid. Like I was the one, she started dating a guy, and I don't think he was that religious, but I just like one day started asking him about God, and he was like, oh, come to this church, I'll start taking you there. And then it was like I was the one that like converted the whole family, got everybody on board.
The detention.
Yeah. The only thing, here's how goody two shoes I was. The only time I ever got in trouble was in high school. I got detention for reading the Bible in class.
Wow.
And like, not just reading it. Like
that is seriously so like that. It makes me laugh every time.
First of all, how is that not your opening line on stage?
Thank you.
Every time.
Thank you.
I've tried it because it was that I was converting kids. Like I would read it, but I would be reading it like I was reading like a cool like Sports Illustrated. Like, oh my God, this is so cool. And kids would be like, what is it? I was like, did you know Jesus loves you no matter how many bad things you do? And they're like, what? And I would just like convert kids on the playground.
True. I don't understand why that is not the first thing out of your mouth on stage.
It's so much better than any.
I mean, you could do that on stage right now, and people would die if you just got up and you were like, hey, oh my gosh, you know that Jesus loves all of you? I feel like that would crush. People would be so confused that they would laugh, and then you could be like, that's how cool I am. I brought you that knowledge.
That's so funny.
Or just be like, that is what got me detention in high school.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just follow like, after everyone looks like so stunned and confused, just be like, and that's how I got my only detention in high school.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's something there for sure, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I just love the like timing of this, because today I just posted on my Instagram a video from an abstinence play that I was in for a church camp. And it's literally like, I cut it perfectly, but there was like one of my lines was like, why would you have sex with her? You know, it's going to ruin everything. And then he's like, it's just one time, it's fine. And then I cut to the next scene, which was her crying and going, I'm pregnant.
That's great. I mean, that is so. I mean, you were like in this Baptist faith, though. Yeah. So they might have been relaxed, but like you were really in it.
I was really into it. Yeah. Like,
and that's why I like you sharing that story, because it's like, oh yeah, everyone was kind of like into religion when we were younger, right? But then he has this like, for some reason, he like took it. Drew took it to the next level. Like no one told him to do that. He just did it.
No.
Right. I mean, that's admirable. That's great. So do you still attend church or no longer?
No. So like I sort of in college started to get a little off of it, because they started training some other pastors, and I saw that it was like very clearly just them trying to get more business. And they'd be like, yeah, and if you need help, you know, I'm a carpenter just like Jesus. And it would be like stuff like that they would say. And I'd be like, is this all a cash grab for these people? Like I started getting like losing some of that. And it was just sort of like, I would say now I'm agnostic. Like, I don't know.
What does agnostic mean?
Literally, I don't know. That's what it means. Yeah. Like,
unsure of divinity, right? It's sort of like, it might be there, it might not be there, but I don't really let it bother me or influence me one way or the other.
Yeah. Like, I definitely am not a church fan anymore. But like spiritually wise, I'm like, yeah, there's probably somebody up there. I know like from time to time I send out a prayer just in case. Like, are you up there? Like,
And
here's
you
what I
believe
need.
that your brother's with you. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see signs from him and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm just
there is something.
something. Yeah.
Something
There's
there.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, what if,
Interesting.
like in my head, I'm like, what if all the religions are right? And it's just like a different slight interpretation. Obviously,
Sure.
not all of them. Some of them are like, just weird.
What do you mean not all of them?
Not all of them.
True.
You know which ones aren't.
Which ones are you calling out?
Sam.
okay.
No, I'm just
Sam,
kidding.
yeah.
I'm kidding.
Lose
It's
half
not-
your.
Yeah.
I'm like, which one are you ordained in?
Yeah. Which one are you convinced is not true? Because if you
Any
say
of them- yeah.
Scientology, Drew, no.
I don't want to say that because I want to be famous one day, and I know that that's a thing you can do. You can just become a Scientologist and you become famous.
My
Right. There are
nose is
different
running,
avenues.
So just don't mind me.
Yeah, but so yeah, I'm not sure. It just sort of that like got me off church, but now I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's
I don't
fair.
even know
So,
enough to be an atheist.
I mean,
What?
did you feel connection to the divine, to God when you were in the faith? Or, I mean, was that more connected to your fame as an entertainer within the faith, as, kind of a friend to the pastors?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I never really felt the divine energies or anything like that. I love the moral message of the Bible. I mean, that's just how I grew up. Like the golden
Yeah.
rule is my number one thing still to this day. And it's like those sort of things were what I got from it. Like, be a good person and you'll be rewarded one day. And then, yeah, everything else, I never really felt it. Like even in church, like I would like sing along and like feel things. But like when people would have like, not that we were one of the crazy ones with like snakes or anything.
Oh my gosh.
But like
Right.
people, that's a
Right. But that's
crazy
more
one.
Pentecostal, right? That's more Pentecostal, not as much Baptist.
Like, yeah, I would see stuff like that and I'm like, that's not like me. And some people would have like, oh, I'm getting a message right now. I'm like, I think you're
Sure.
just like showboating or like
Yeah.
pretending. Like I never got that, but I definitely felt peace when I was there
Yeah.
and I felt the message and that's what I went for.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Now, Aurora,
Yeah.
what's kind of your spiritual religious journey?
Born and raised Catholic. My
Okay.
mom is from Haiti and my dad is Punjabi. So my dad is Sikh and he was never really like in my life too much. So I was obviously heavily influenced by the Catholic Church. And I went to Catholic private school from kindergarten to 12th grade. My first public school was college.
Wow. Yeah.
And I went to an all-girl Catholic high school.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Fantasy's born.
Ooh. And I go to church still I'm like a holiday,
Yeah.
because the thing with Haitians, it's like they're very Catholic, but it's more of like a cultural Catholic. It's not
Right.
just like, oh, like we all go to church and praise God. It's like it's deep rooted in the culture. So I still feel like I'm drawn to the church because it's part of my culture.
Uh-huh.
So growing up, like going to church twice a week, because we would go during school, we would go every Tuesday or Wednesday, depending what grade you were in, to go to morning mass. And then every
Right.
Sunday I would go with my mom and, other parents. And then afterwards I would have like Bible study.
Yeah. Now, what did they call the Wednesday night activities or Tuesday night activities? Did you do those?
No,
I forget
because
what they call it, but
I think I know what you're talking about. But I didn't do those just because I was in Catholic school all the time. So
sure.
we
So
went,
you were there already, right?
yeah, we were already like the religion classes and all of that. They were all incorporated in like a lot of
Right.
those classes, I think were for like the night ones were for to get ready for sacraments. And we did that in
Right.
school.
Got it.
So yeah, so it was a little different, but just growing up being so like the church being like shoved down my throat, I like
Yeah.
didn't really connect to it on like a totally spiritual level. I looked at going to church as a way to get out of school and then like out of the classroom.
Even though it's like all the same?
But I didn't have to like learn, I just had to like and then also I always volunteered to be an altar boy. I was an altar boy.
Uh-huh.
So it was like the church version of entertainment.
Yeah, right. Of course. You get to dress up, you get to play a role. Yeah.
You get to be backstage. Are you kidding me? Like,
right.
heck yeah. Being
That
an altar
green
boy
room?
was, yeah, you get to be in a green room. Like, that is
Yeah.
amazing. So when I would go to church with class, I would always be like, I'll be the altar boy, and I'd go in the green room, do my thing. You know, we'd come out, we'd perform, and then we'd go back and leave. So away to get out of the classroom, I was performing. And then on Sundays, we always went to brunch afterwards. So that's like a lot of like good memories that way. But I never was like fully like spiritually, like doing the Hail Marys and all that. I felt phony always. Like as young as I can remember, I just remember being like, I don't feel like this is like doing anything for me to like make me feel better.
Gotcha. That's not like bringing you closer to God.
No, and it's weird because I kind of got the same thing for like Drew did. Like some of the moral stories and teachings I like related to, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Like treat others like you want to be treated. Okay. And all that kind of stuff stuck with me. And I think the places where I felt closest to God was like when I was in silence. So I think that's why meditation is something that's like better for me, like being outside or being like in a peaceful environment. Because when we would go on retreats, you know, all the religious retreats, and we couldn't talk for a day or something, which is like also really good. I want to learn how to do that as a substitute teacher, make my class not talk for a whole day. That would be really like make 10-year-olds not talk for a whole day. Oh,
yeah. Oh my
they're so smart. Now that I look back at it, they got a weekend getaway and they made the whole class not talk for a day.
Genius. That's genius. Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I felt closest to God, I guess. But and then when I do, like when things go wrong or things go right, you know, I'm always like very thankful. And I don't know what to call the entity that I believe in, but I just say God, because that's what I was raised with, I guess.
Gotcha. So what kind of led you? Oh, I mean, was it just the fact that you were no longer going to Catholic school that like, you know, you stopped going as regularly, or what kind of prevented you think, from continuing this like close relationship?
I think my independence.
Uh-huh.
Like as soon as I got my driver's license, I was like,
peace.
I was like, bye. Like my mom stopped forcing me to go, and she still went every weekend. And I was in Catholic high school, so I was still technically going to church, but I wasn't going outside of my school. I wasn't like actively seeking it out. And then when I got to college, I was interested in going to church, like the Catholic church on campus. But then I got involved with sports, and I was just like, and then I got involved with partying, and I was like, this is way more fun, you know?
Yeah.
So then I just kind of stopped going and just go with my family on holidays. I don't know.
Sure. So I had one quick question about this altar boy thing. My understanding was that only boys could be altar boys, that it was, you know, a rite of priesthood. Is that not the case, or were you just in a very progressive, or were you just like, listen, I am going to be an altar boy?
Look, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian one day, and I need the stage time.
Right.
No, I don't know. I know it's fine. You can be a girl. I don't know when it changed, but
I know you can be a girl, but I'm just wondering if a girl can really be an altar boy.
a girl. Oh, that's so great. No, a girl can be an altar boy. I have no idea when it changed, but it changed sometime before I started doing it. And
so it was a case of like priesthood or kind of male dominated stuff for some reason. My understanding was that it was connected to priesthood, but I don't know. I'm not.
But
Catholic.
now I'm like, because I actually don't know. And that's like a really good question. But now I'm wondering, maybe they changed it because women can be nuns. So maybe that's like, they're like, oh, it's a passageway into becoming a nun. So let's start. But like I don't know when they started. I just know that I was an altar boy and I was really good at it. And I have a lot of great stories now that I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I should share these on stage. They're really good.
There you go.
Right. For sure. Interesting. So, all right. I have two general questions left, and then we'll get into one of my favorite segments because it's more about me. But before we get there, I want to ask you both two things. So one thing is what would have changed for you, your relationship with your faith, if your church had done X? You know what I mean? So think about that. And then the other question, and you can take these in whichever order you want. But the other question is, what do you believe happens after this life? Where is there anything? Is there nothing? You know, what happens? What do
Those
you
are
want to have
good
happen?
Seth with okay, I see you with some thoughtful questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to
get
go
deep.
first?
Okay, yeah.
He just touched my knee. Like that's what he does when he gets nervous.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, okay.
That's great. I mean, there's no pressure. Only God is judging. So go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, this answer determines whether you make it to the good place or the bad place.
Right. That would be amazing. And that show, how did you feel? Anyway.
Oh,
okay,
I love it. Oh
focus.
my God. So good. Yeah, focus.
One of the best
focus.
shows.
Right.
Watch The Good
right.
Place if you haven't watched it. It's amazing.
It is. It is good. It is good.
We rewatched the last.
Babe, focus.
Sorry, yeah. I'm nervous. I'm trying to stall. Just like getting.
Just what do you
heaven.
think? What do you think is going to happen afterwards?
Well, yeah,
Start with
take that one first because you've talked about your brother kind of communicating with you or being there. So, what do you think? I mean, where do you think your brother is now?
I mean, I'm wishing that there's an afterlife. I remember in youth group, it was always described as like, oh, you love video games? The best video game of all time will be there. Like it was very much like everything's perfect, which
I love it. Yeah.
They were good. They sold me. They knew how, and that's why I was so good at selling my classmates on the idea.
Right.
No, I mean, I hope that I can go up there and hang out with him. He was my best friend. We were like the only two people that we had like our own language, our own shorthand, looks, like because he was more religious or more like a good value person than me, like so much more innocent than me. Where like even when we were in college together, if there was like somebody naked in the locker room at the gym, he would like get awkward about it, and he would like he had code words. So he's like, if I start talking about the TV show Scrubs, there's somebody naked nearby and we have to be careful. And like just so innocent.
So do you think he's in heaven? Do you believe in heaven?
Yeah, I mean, if there is a heaven, he's definitely there. 100%. Like he never drank, never smoked, never had sex, like nothing. Like he led the life that is, if there is a good place, he's 100% there. So I'm hoping, I feel like there's probably something, but at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, what if we just disappear and become just energy, and that's it, and you just sort of dissipate into the world? So I'm conflicted, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. I'm curious if part of your separation from your religion too has to do with your brother's passing, in the sense of like, do you blame God, or do you know, what do you feel like in that aspect?
Yeah, so I know my mom completely, when he passed away, she like cursed God's name, was like, there's no God if he could do this to the nicest person. Yeah. But for me, it really was like, I think I was just gradually moving away anyway. I was definitely out of church at that point, but it was just sort of like, I don't know, being like taking science courses and talking to a lot of people, like college, sort of how they say like, oh yeah, it's so liberal and blah, blah, blah. It like, I think it sort of moved me away from like, oh, you only hang out with religious people, you only talk to religious people, and more like different perspectives, and people being like, well, where would it be? What goes there? Like, is your body, your spirit, like, what is it? And it was just too many unanswerable questions. And I think that's what started to make me be like, there's got to be some sort of answer. And that's where I became an agnostic, because I'm just like, there's no answers. So how can we know anything? And it too many mind games.
Drew likes answers.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
I mean, that's fair. You know, I think that's a fair thing to want, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Drew, I'm glad you came on this podcast. I've got all the answers you need, buddy.
Yes. I'm glad.
That's great. Okay. And then what do you think? So I guess really then that answers kind of the question, right? If your church had been able to answer some of your questions, you may have been able to stay in it longer if that's where you wanted to be.
Yeah, it would have been that. And if the original pastor had just stayed at the helm, like he was in it for every good reason. Like we would help people. I went to numerous people's houses when they had issues going on. We did like prayer circles. Like he was in it for 100% the right reasons. And then he let a couple people in, and then it was just like, I know there's like parables about like bad shepherds, and it like sort of corrupts the flock or whatever. And that's sort of what was happening, where it was just like, well, I don't know if I can start over somewhere else. Like I had this trust and love, and then it just yeah, it was corrupted by just two bad people that were like, oh, this is like, I can pitch my business every day and make a lot of money off of this. And it was just like, really? Like, that's allowed?
Yeah. Yes.
It
Yes,
was
it
bad.
is.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Aurora, that you've shirked off the responsibility of going first, what are your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, I forgot the first question. It was like, what could the church have done differently?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think that, well, especially for the Catholic Church, it just is so like, it's just so close-minded, and it's just like so in the past. I think
Even though they let girls be altar boys?
I mean, that is pretty forward thinking. That
Right.
is like, woo, good for them.
Right.
Yay.
Well, and who's the Pope now? Isn't he rethinking a lot of same-sex issues?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
no?
but I just, yes, but I just think that they're like so far behind. It's going to take a lot for them to like kind of catch up.
Yeah.
And there's like
But
a
do you
lot.
think a religion should have to catch up to society, or do you think there is a move societally away from some of the values that religions in general that religions have? And is that bad? Is it bad for religion to stick to values that are old-fashioned, or?
I think so, because we look back and there's some old-fashioned values that just like aren't okay anymore. Like like the way
Right,
that
but
they
I wouldn't suggest racism as a value. You
Right,
know?
right,
Like,
right.
that's
But I
not
mean,
a
like,
positive.
I think that there are really good values and morals that come from the Catholic Church, but I think that it's surrounded and cluttered with a lot of bad stuff. And I think that
Sure.
that's just where I'm like, it's going to take them time to kind of sort through that clutter and get to like that. We know our point is to like be a good person and love thy neighbor and honor thy body and, you know, don't kill people. Like just like simple.
Just the basics.
Just
Yeah.
like the basics. And then, you know, I think that there's just like a lot of clutter around it. And for me, I also wanted answers. And I think that they're starting to come now in the Catholic Church of like, oh, well, you know, maybe it wasn't actually interpreted that a man shouldn't lie with a man, you know, like it's like coming out now. But when I was younger, that wasn't really the case. It was just like, don't sin, don't do anything sexual, don't even have those thoughts. I had classes on how to curb the thoughts of doing anything sexual because you would go to hell, you know, and like that's too,
well, we're judged for our thoughts.
Yeah, and that was just too intense for me. So I think if the church was kind of doing almost what it's doing now, but like when I was younger, maybe I would still be. And then also the second thing is just not be so boring. Like,
that's never going to change. That is a value that we need to keep.
I'm like, I need a happy medium between the like singing and dancing and the shaking and like the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church,
the standing and the sitting and the
oh my god, and the hymns and just like the kneeling, and then you're kneeling and then you're walking but very slowly because you're in a line, and then you have like I can't, it's just too, oh my god, it's a snooze fest. I can't get through those I was so excited when I was younger and they would let us, all the kids, leave in the middle of the mass to go do like a separate little children mass next to like the big mass.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called. I don't know. But yeah, at one point what they would, I forgot what they were doing. Oh God, it's been that long. Yeah, they would tell a story and they'd be like, all right, dismissing all the kids. And then all the kids, you would see them run. They'd be like, like we get to leave, and we would all sit there and listen to like a fun kid version of the story.
Sunday school?
Yeah.
Are you just talking
No,
Sunday
it's different. No, it's different.
Primary? That's what we call it in my faith, primary. But
I don't know, maybe it could be very similar, but it was during mass, and then we would come back before communion.
Yeah, that was how we did it.
Interesting.
We would just watch VeggieTales. That's what I remember as a kid.
That's great. VeggieTales. Are you kidding?
Love VeggieTales. So much fun.
Yeah. Good stuff. Larry the tomato, right? Or Larry, is Larry the tomato, or is he the
cucumber? I thought
cucumber.
What's the? I don't even remember.
I don't know what you guys are. I didn't ever watch it.
It's Tomato Bob and Larry. Anyway, I don't know.
This is riveting.
I love this so much. Okay, and do you think there's an afterlife, Aurora? What do you think happens after this?
I think that there's an afterlife. Do I think that we go somewhere and hang out with people that have passed? I don't. I don't really believe that. I know that's kind of like pessimistic.
Jeez, that's a downer. Yeah, no, go
I
on.
know.
Yeah.
You just
But
die.
I
and
feel-
you're gone.
I feel like it's something more like, this sounds terrible, it's not terrible, but I think it's more of like The Good Place. Like you become a good deed, or like, and I don't think it's just one time. I think that you come back kind of like in a different form to your loved ones. And I think that you don't haunt them, but you live through them and their actions.
Interesting.
Like
so
when they
you become a parent. That's what you're saying.
Basically, everyone goes to hell and they become a parent. Yes.
Yeah, bad parent. You're a bad parent that is living through your kid. Interesting.
No, I think
you're
that
writing jokes for them and you're putting them on TV. That's what heaven is. That's the afterlife.
That is heaven. Thank you. Finally, that's what I was trying to say. No, I think that you're like, you become like an inner voice in someone's head. And I think like that's how you like live, and like, are you like, when they feel like, oh, I don't know what I should do, and then something happens and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do that. It's like, I think that's how people live, like their soul lives after they die. Because I do think that we have like, I think that this is like a shell, you know, and we're just like souls inside of a shell. So there has to be something that happens with that energy. Do I think we're going to be like in clouds and I'm going to like see all the people who've died and I'm like, oh, what's up, dude? Like, hell yeah, let's hang out. Like, no, I don't think that's real.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. Yeah. But, and you think that's true for good and bad people? There are good voices. There are bad voices.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally, because there's good people and there's bad people. People have a dark soul and people have a white soul. Yeah, and I think that the people who have done terrible things in their life and they die, I think that those terrible things live on, and that's the dark side. And you can choose whether to go with that side, or you can choose to go with, you know, your brother giving you an amazing sight and saying, no, Drew, keep going. Like, which one do you choose? Because it all is free will, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. I think we have free will. So we have to have both options. Fair
enough. Well, I think both answers are great. And this podcast is about...
But who is right? Like, who do you think
is
right?
Judging. This podcast is about not judging, Aurora. And the truth is, neither of you is correct, because I know what is true.
Okay, good. Let us know.
Yeah, right. No, I think that's great. I think it's beautiful that there's, you know, a way... I don't know. I just think it's hopeful, right? I find it hopeful to believe in something after this life, that this isn't it, you know, and some people find it hopeful to believe that this is it and that there is an end, you know, to whatever stress or, you know, whatever could continue afterward, that, you know, you do your best to live a good life here, and then that's good. That's it. Yeah. That's all.
I sometimes feel like sometimes when I'm like sitting alone, and this kind of goes back to maybe when I was younger, and I always felt like that's how I got close to God. But I always feel like when I'm sitting alone, that's when I can like feel like presence, like a presence. So that's why that's why I think that I'm like, oh, we just become a presence after we die.
Interesting.
Like the people that I've lost, I feel like when I'm alone and I'm like sad or I'm really happy, I feel like they're there.
Yeah.
You know, and that like feeling of like joy, that's them.
Yeah. So in a way, you do think we can hang out with people that we like after this life. In a way, right?
Yeah. I guess so, kind of. Yeah. Whether we're aware of it or not, like, I don't know, but yeah.
Sure.
Kind of.
Interesting. All right. Well, beautiful. I have loved this episode. Are you ready for the final segment? This is where
I'm so excited.
Each get to pester me and bug me with personal questions, since I've been bothering you for the last hour. In this segment that I call What's the Deal with Mormons? Drew and Aurora. So, what's the deal with Mormons? Fire away. Any questions you have regarding
Does Drew faith? Look like a Mormon?
I am a Mormon. I actually am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So that's why it's called What's the Deal with Mormons? So that you can ask me about my faith. But Drew does look like a Mormon.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. Yeah. That was my first question.
Yeah. He'd fit right in. And I mean, we would love for you to fit right in too, Aurora, but there might be a little
I'm good. Thank you so much for the offer, but I'm good.
But yeah, Drew's got that Mormon glow about him.
I do. I went to a bunch of the stake dances with the other Mormon kids, because it was just Yeah, it was like they're the
Right.
only ones who are good influences. So
Sure.
Can Mormons drink coffee now? Or soda? Okay.
Soda. Okay, so this is a pretty typical kind of misunderstanding. The issue is not caffeine. So a lot of people think the issue is caffeine. So they're like, oh, you can't drink, coffee or soda, and you can't eat chocolate, apparently.
I swear I don't have COVID. I'm sorry. It's just that
You're good. I don't care. I hope you
I
do
have
have
allergies.
COVID and
Oh,
that you're
thank you.
immune now. No, it's not. It's nothing to do with caffeine. So this is related to a revelation that we call the Word of Wisdom, which is in one of our books of Scripture, the book of Scripture called the Doctrine and Covenants. And this Word of Wisdom is essentially a health code. So similar to like a Jewish kosher law, there are certain things that we've been, counseled to not eat or drink, and the coffee is one and tea is the other. So herbal tea is fine. I think it's gross, so I don't drink it. But it is religiously okay to partake of herbal tea. But the iced tea that always looks so good to me, no,
Oh.
that's not okay. Coffee in any form, not okay. Yeah. So there you go. So no, soda's great. I love Mountain Dew. Love me some Mountain Dew. So caffeine's not really the
interesting.
issue. The higher, sort of what people think, like the higher law of with this Word of Wisdom, because a lot of it is about sort of spiritual and physical purity. So it's not being addicted to things. So I think this comes with the caveat that if you're someone who is addicted to caffeine, I know many of those people,
I'm
you
one
should
of them.
probably not partake in what you are beholden to, unless what you're beholden to is our Lord and Savior, right? So you need to
Fair.
keep yourself pure
Yeah.
to have the influences of the Holy Spirit to do those good things that you're being prompted to do. And if caffeine is getting in the way, then maybe you shouldn't partake. But it's not specifically a no-no, the caffeine.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Go. You
All
have
right.
questions?
I
It's
do.
okay.
Have you seen?
It's okay, buddy.
That's how we talk to each other all the time.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Have you seen the Book of Mormon?
The musical.
The musical, yes.
No, I have not, but I have listened to a lot of the music. I think it is hilarious. And in all fairness, Matt Stone and Trey Parker are quite fair, and they actually portray things quite accurately, as silly as it sounds. On my mission, a lot of people I talked to, and I don't know how familiar either of you is with my faith, but when a young man turns 19, he has the option to go abroad or within the United States on a mission, proselyting, talking to other people about our faith and trying to get them to convert. So I did that when I was about 19 and a half, went to Eastern Canada, learned French, and taught people in French. And a lot of
Oh my God. That's
people
so
that
cool.
I talked to, a lot of people I talked to, the only reason they knew about our church at all was because of South Park. And
Yeah.
the episodes of On My Faith in South Park, crazy, but also pretty accurate in how the religion was restored. So
Where did you go in Canada?
so I was in the Quebec province.
Yeah,
So,
I have a lot of family there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're Haitian.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've met quite a few Haitians in Montreal.
Yep.
So yeah, a very fun-loving group of people. I did not find them as religious, but very spiritual.
Yeah. That's good interpretation.
That's
Maybe the further away you get from Haiti, it just goes a little bit lower and lower and lower.
I mean, maybe they were all Catholic though. Like everybody I met was
Yeah,
like, "Oh no, we're Catholic. We're Catholic."
Right.
And a lot of the Quebecois, the white Quebec people, they would also identify as Catholic, but they would say Catholic not practicing. That was
I guess, yeah, that's like what I am. But anyways,
Sure.
This isn't about me. This isn't
Yeah,
about
I mean,
me
it
right
can
now.
be.
Sorry.
It's always about
It's
you.
not about me, but
Yeah, so anyway, my personal goal is to make it to JFL so I can go back to Montreal
yes.
and, talk to some people and see some people that I used to talk to. Anyway, that would be great. But yeah, Montreal is a beautiful city.
Oh, I love it. I have another question.
Yeah.
How old were you when you got married?
24.
Oh, that's not, I guess that's like
That's
not too
normal.
bad. Yeah, I was expecting like 20.
Right. No. I knew there was a woman girl in my high school, got married right out of high school. 18, married. Boom.
Still
Did it.
married?
Locked it down. Still married. Yep. Still married. Married with like 5 kids or something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Married
wow.
and happy. But yeah, I was 24 when I got married, and my wife and I had known each other. We each separately had a goal to date whoever we were going to marry for at least a year, which in Mormon times is a long time. And
Oh, wow.
we almost made it. I think dated for 10 months. We knew each other for a year before we got married, but we hadn't really been dating for a year before
Oh
we
my
got married.
gosh.
So
That is so fast.
yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, like my life, that's like
Right. I
really
mean,
fast for me. Yeah.
for normal people, that is crazy. That is crazy fast. And we didn't live together. There was no living together. There was no, no sex before marriage. So,
Oh, is that why
sort of,
Mormons get married quickly? Because they're like, okay, let's just have sex. Like we got to
that's a
do
big
this.
reason. I mean,
Really?
that's a big part. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're horny and you found someone you love. It's like, let's just lock it down. I mean,
Yeah.
what more do we need? Yeah. So I do think that is maybe an unspoken big part of why at least people in my faith get married a little bit younger. Another is that we're encouraged to. It's a step in life, it's kind of part of, marriage is very important for my faith. So it is a religious sacrament to get married in the temple and have, the sealing ordinance performed along with the marriage. So it's
Right.
kind of a big deal. So the natural progression of things is kind of, for young men, once you're home off your mission, that's your next
That's
mission.
the next thing.
Yeah.
That's how it is in the Catholic Church too, but it's just not pushed as hard, I guess. Maybe it's not like
Sure.
enforced as much, but it's basically because we have our 7 sacraments and then you have
Right.
to get them all done. Like that, there's no
Right.
question.
Right. Huge checklist. Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, no, in Baptist, you just have to get dunked in the water one time. That's you're done.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds amazing, Good deal.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Right.
that was fun.
Are we baptizing our kids?
I don't know.
Oh, I guess
this
that's
is a big question. And what age were you when you were baptized, Drew?
Like 13 or 14, I think.
years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because I wasn't religious as a kid. My mom wasn't religious. It was, when I was a teenager. And it's like a whole thing where, you have meetings with the church leaders and they ask, like, are you sure you want to do this? Let's schedule it. And then they have basically like a hot tub behind the podium. And so you always see it every time you come in. And then, they'll do the whole thing. And he joked that he was going to.
By immersion, right? You're dunked all the way under.
Yep, dunked all the way under. He joked that he was gonna hold me under a little bit longer, see if I could meet Jesus a little quicker. And I thought that was funny.
that's so funny.
I mean, that's hilarious.
Just like threatened to murder a child. It's like hilarious.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
sweet.
It's funny to us religious people, okay?
Yeah. It was actually
I was
that's
6 months old.
Right. Yeah. You got sprinkled, right? You get sprinkled as a baby.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember it.
Right. Yeah. Of course not. Of course not.
I'm baptizing my kids.
In the Catholic faith?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like cultural to me. I don't know.
Sure.
I guess I'm just gonna do it, and then also let them choose. I got a chance to choose. You got a chance to choose. So why not give them like at least start them like how I did, and then they can choose. If they choose, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be Baptist, or I want to be, Muslim. I'm like, all right, cool. Whatever makes you feel good and makes you a good person. Like, go do that.
Yeah.
So are you gonna each start going to church again regularly with kids when you have kids?
We've talked about this.
We have. Yeah.
I don't remember what we decided.
I mean, I think we had basically decided
one week Baptist, 1 week Catholic. What's going to be the deal?
I think the Catholic Church is more is a bigger part of my life than the Baptist Church is in your life. What do you think?
I mean, yeah. It's because baptism
We
is
need
just
to
sort
have
of
this
like
conversation
easygoing.
off this podcast.
Yeah.
That is fine with me. No,
I
that's
mean,
great.
so Aurora talked about it. She wants our kids to go through the 7 sacraments for the Catholic Church.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I haven't even done all of them, but yeah.
But I think we had both decided that, you know, we're not going to force our kids to be religious,
Right.
but like with me, like I started asking questions and it's like, okay,
Right.
yeah, if you're interested, then let's take you there.
I'm still baptizing them though. Anyways, what other questions?
Oh yeah, so many good questions. Yeah, let's move
Yeah,
back
any
to
other
sex.
questions?
What is one like rule or idea from Mormonism that you're just like, that doesn't seem right? Is there any
that you like question?
that you question or you just think it's just so bonkers?
I mean, I think one thing that my church is going to have to face pretty soon is a sincere question about female leadership within the church. And I want to be careful about how I phrase this because it is in my faith, and I do believe this, that it is part of priesthood, and priesthood is largely, though not universally, male. And what I mean by that is that our prophets, so we have a quorum of the 12 apostles, we have a first presidency, a living prophet, sort of similar to a pope in the Catholic faith, who have talked about, you know, men hold the priesthood and women function within the priesthood. So it's not an exclusive, you know, power or right to men to do things within the priesthood. But that being said, you know, the leaders of every congregation are men. The leaders of our faith, the 12 apostles, all men. The first presidency, all men. You know, there's a female organization within the church called the Relief Society that is led by women. But as far as like general leadership, it's restricted sort of to the Relief Society, primary, and young women's organizations, whereas the men kind of control, you know, everybody. So my wife and I have had many discussions about that and the just or unjustness of that. So that might be a question that comes down. Is it necessary for leaders to be men, or is there maybe a joint men and women, you know, avenue? It's a tough one.
That kind of goes with like the church, like, you know, them having to change, any religion having to change with society, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the problem for me with it is that I don't necessarily disagree with the you know, men being in charge. I do think the men need to listen or take counsel from women more. I've definitely seen that change as I've gotten older. More women included in, you know, councils within leadership of the church, on a local level for sure, and I imagine on a general level that's happening more. But you know, the difficulty is that like leaders in the congregation, like a bishop, the apostles are all called as judges in Israel. So they do hold a function religiously to help the members that they are in charge of to get closer to Christ. And a lot of this sort of judge in Israel stuff is tied to the priesthood. So I don't know how theologically you get around that without then also saying, well, women can hold the priesthood as well, which, you know, I don't know. Is that right or is that not right? I guess I see it as being a different responsibility for men and women, that men, you know, have things that we need to work on as a race, and women have things they need to work on as a race. And I don't know. But, you know, when they issue a calling to a leader in a congregation like a bishop, they call the wife as well. They're meeting with the wife as well. So it might be that there's more of a joint calling that comes out of this in the future.
Interesting.
I don't know, where a husband wife is sort of the leaders. They are the leaders of the congregation. I don't know. But that's probably the only one I can think of that's one that I'm also sort of like, I don't know how I feel about it, you know?
That's a good question.
I
Yeah.
needed to ask because it's like, yeah, it's almost like do you feel like the Bible and the Book of Mormon, all those are like divine, written by God, or do you feel like it's sort of like an interpretation by people who, could talk to God in essence? How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel more that way about the Bible.
Okay.
That it's been through so many translations that there might be some things in there that we've just lost completely.
Sure.
I think a little bit like that about the Book of Mormon. It's a similar sort of issue in that you have prophets who have written different books that are included in the Book of Mormon. So similar to the Bible. I mean, admittedly, it's been through less translations. It's been through less hands as far as how it was organized. So I feel more, that it's more directly connected to the Word of God. But no, I don't find it distracting. I guess what I'll say is when I read the Book of Mormon, I don't find those thoughts about it being disconnected from inspiration. That's not distracting to me. Whereas when I read the Bible, it is distracting. There are certain accounts or stories in the Bible where I'm like, I don't know. How does this
That's
how
how
does
I
this
feel.
happen?
Yeah.
Like how is Lot why are we including Lot sleeping with his daughters in a drunken state? Why is
Yeah.
that important for me to understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Clutter. See? Clutter.
right.
Clutter.
Right. I
Too
think,
much clutter.
so I feel that way more about the Bible than I do the Book of Mormon.
Have you watched The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City?
No, I have not. I have not. I might need to, but oh my gosh. I'm not a huge fan of like the reality TV shows like that. But
you're
there's
gonna
an aspect that I want to see it just to be like,
I don't know if you should watch it. It is terrible and good at the same time, but basically there's like one Mormon on it. They were all Mormon, and now there's only one that's actually still Mormon.
Have they left the faith during the taping, or was this
no? And sorry, I actually messed up. There's one that's still Mormon and another one that was never Mormon. She's just a different religion. She's the leader of her congregation. But all the other ones were all Mormons, and they stopped being Mormon before the show.
Yeah.
So they talk a lot. Common. Yeah, they talk a lot about how why they left. And then the one that's still Mormon, owns 2 tequila businesses, and they all give her shit for having a tequila business, and she can't drink alcohol.
Should. I think that's Anyway, this is
they're like, how can you be a good Mormon and you're selling alcohol? She's like, well, I'm not drinking it.
Right.
All right.
I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough sell. That's a hard.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Her selling tequila, but she's a devout Mormon.
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of people, if I ever get really famous, I think a lot of members of my faith would look at me pretty similarly to this tequila touting woman. I
guess, because you're on stage and you're not necessarily you're speaking the truth,
Right. At least my truth. I hate that phrase, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that does bother me because it is something that is directly contrary to the word of wisdom. We shouldn't be partaking in it. So why would you dish it out?
Right.
So I do have problems with that, but I think in all fairness, people could be like, hey, you're supposed to, partake in holy forms of entertainment, and you're inviting us to the Comedy Store.
Right.
That doesn't seem holy. So
also
I can understand.
Another one. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you.
No, I was just going to say, I can understand, why people would view that as equally hypocritical. But I sort of look at myself as a white knight in these comedy clubs, shining my light, not hiding it in a bushel, as it were.
Right.
Yep.
There is another housewife. Sorry, we're talking about housewives. Drew's so excited right now.
It's my favorite topic, really.
But she was Mormon, a devout Mormon, and then she got married to someone that wasn't Mormon.
Yeah.
And so
she couldn't have been that good then, huh?
No. so he was willing to convert to Mormonism.
Snap.
To be with her, but the church wasn't super welcoming to him because he's Black. And so she left the church.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Yeah. Is that a
that's
thing?
a tough one. Is that a thing?
Until the
so
70s, right?
my faith had a really troubled history with African American members. So as I understand it, and I need to refresh my research on this, but as I understand it, when Joseph Smith restored the church in 1830, it was open to everybody. You know, he wanted people to join his faith, the faith that he had found. And there were quite a few African American members of the faith in the early days of the church, and they held the priesthood. Then, as Utah became a state, so what happened with my faith is they moved from New York, and essentially Joseph Smith felt called to move west. So they kind of started moving west. A lot of it was economic issues, and so they kind of followed opportunities.
Of course.
And then Brigham Young became the president of the church, the prophet of the church after Joseph Smith was killed. And he definitely felt called to move west. And so he had the vision, the whole 9 yards, right? So they X'd out of the eastern United States and moved west. As they moved west, they, gathered some members, they lost some. But when they ended up in Utah, which was a territory, they wanted to join the Union. So they had to become a state. And there were some issues as they moved west with racism and with the Black members of the church that they had gained, that people saw as Mormons settled in different areas. People saw that as a threat. So people saw it as a threat that would throw the voting. So they saw it as a political threat. They saw it as an economic threat. And so the leaders of the faith were pressured. This is sort of an apologist version of this story, but they were pressured to essentially downgrade Black members of the church. And I don't know how true that really is. There may well have been some racism issues, some cultural issues, but it ended up that Black members of the church could not hold the priesthood. And to be more specific, it was members that came from African descent. So if, it was a Black member that was from, Haiti or, whatever, it's like, oh, well, that's not the same. But I think they sort of were just like, we don't know. We don't have the DNA testing. So
right.
You're all the same to us
that's
anyway.
Crazy.
So
that's
for,
like
for
kind of
many,
that's like sad. Yeah.
Yeah. So for many years, it was all the way up until 1975, I think, that Black members of my faith could not hold the priesthood.
That makes sense then why she would leave, because they're a little bit older,
So that's really
probably
tough.
around the time.
Yeah, and that's really tough. And that's one, that's definitely an aspect of the faith that I think, well, it's hard to look at that and say that's got to be cultural. It's hard to look at it and say that's theological. There was a really good divine reason. I don't think so. I don't know though. I don't think so. That's not the God that I believe in or the God that I love. So yeah. So
I mean, there's stuff like that in all religions too, but that was just like,
right.
It stood out to me just because this was filmed starting being filmed at the beginning of 2020, end of 2019. So her like saying that, I think they've been married, I don't know, maybe like 15 years. I don't remember the exact time, but that's like very recent. So that's why it like stood out to me as like, oh wow, that's a big reason to leave the church, because they weren't welcoming to your Black husband. So
right. I mean, that's really tough.
Yeah. And all her kids are Black, and so it's like, ugh, I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough. There were very few. I mean, there are just very few Black people in Utah. And a lot of that is because of that. That's a huge reason. That's a huge part of it. He's
a football coach, so.
Right. I mean, if you want a good football or basketball team, then but so there's just far fewer Black people in Utah. And I think a lot of that has to do with that relationship with the religion. I think it's gotten better. I would hope that it's gotten better. But, that honestly, it was a big reason why my wife and I wanted to get out of Utah and raise a family outside of Utah. Because whenever you have kind of a uniform type of person or a uniform outlook on the world. There are some issues, so we wanted them to grow up in a more diverse place.
Are you like raising them like strict Mormon? Like, are you letting them kind of choose, or like what's their life like?
Our oldest is 9, so they have no free will. No, I mean, we're doing our best. My wife and I were both raised within the faith, so we both still love it. We both still find a lot of joy and peace from it. We go to church, I guess before the pandemic, we would go to church every week. We're doing home church now over the pandemic, and there are values and aspects of the faith that I really love, and so we're raising our kids in the faith. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, when it comes time for them to really weigh their decisions and choose, we present them with the choice. So in my faith, we're baptized at age 8. My daughter, we talked to her about it and said, here's, this is the deal, but you can choose. And granted, 8 is not really it's not the age where you're gonna be like, you're wrong, mom and dad, this is stupid. There's a heavy cultural, societal pressure within our congregation to conform, right? As there is
Right.
within any group.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
being said, when she's a teenager and really, I think, testing the boundaries, if she doesn't want to go to church a couple weeks, I don't feel like it's worth fighting. I do think I will say you should. And I think, and I'm pretty confident you'll be happier if you do come with us. But, it is ultimately your choice. So,
Oh, Seth, you're such a good dad.
we'll see when she comes out as a lesbian. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to try to be as supportive as I can, with everything. But yeah, I think it's important to have some of these values. And I think it's important to be, to take a stand with some things.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's important to get the values and morals you can from any religion that you are. Like, there's good parts of every religion. So as long as you're out there just, being a good person.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? And
whether you drink coffee or not, like, as long as you're
yeah, absolutely. And if you want to bang a dude, I don't care. Is it what I'm gonna choose to do? No, not. But I'll pretend to understand, and we'll be fine.
I
love that. That's a good outlook.
Yeah. No, I like your joke, the one that I heard at the World Series about, like, what if you don't believe in God, why would you be a good person? It's like,
oh, sure.
That one's so good, but it's because church put those morals in me, and I'm like, I can't remember what there's a theory. It's like the worst thing that happens if you believe and God doesn't exist is nothing.
Right.
So you should just believe, because the upside is so much. So it's like, yeah, I'm still going to be a good person, because if
it's like wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
It really is.
It doesn't hurt to wear a mask. It just hurts not to.
Yeah.
So you might as well just wear it.
I mean, it is inconvenient to wear a mask, just like it's inconvenient to be good sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my God, you guys, this is like a lot of good messages. We're getting good messages. We're getting good slogans. We're getting good vibes. This is a good time.
This is it. This is the bread and butter of this podcast. I love it. You guys are so great. Any other questions, or are you ready to get into the plugs?
Questions. Do I have any other questions for a Mormon? How many times do you get to sit down with an honest Mormon person?
My church youth group, we had I don't know if you guys call them pastors or preachers or what the term would be, but he came and sat down with our youth group. He talked about the beliefs and the differences and was super open and just like, anything you want to ask. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go for it. What?
Did you ever watch or look at bubble porn?
Bubble porn? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, so then probably not.
It was a meme. Yeah, it was a meme that they were like, and this is how Mormons look at porn.
And it's photos of women in their bikinis, but it's bubbled out. All the bikinis are like bubbled out. So all you see is their naked bodies, but you don't see any of their private parts, but it alludes that they're like naked.
But they're naked.
It's convincing enough that your brain fills in all the pieces. Yeah.
No, that was not a thing.
That's like
I was
it's a
growing up. It
meme.
was
Yes.
just you took it straight, baby. You took it right out of the spoon. There was just the pure porn. That was it. That was all we had on dial-up internet, baby.
Yep.
So, yeah,
And
no bubble porn. I don't remember anything like that.
Wow. Okay, that was a lie.
Yeah, you'll have to look it up afterwards, but it was a meme. That's what it was. It was like a
Look
meme.
it up with your wife too. That'll be like a fun little
Right.
date night for you guys.
Ooh, nice little foreplay going on.
Yeah, bubble porn. Make some more
Right.
babies.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, have not heard of that even. That's crazy.
Anything else? I want to ask like dirty questions.
Of course you do. Of
Like
course
the
you do.
worst sins, like how strict he is.
Did you know a lot of people who did anal before they got married because it's technically not sex?
Right, the poop hole loophole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I'd never heard that,
Yep.
but that's good.
Right. I didn't know anybody who did that. There's also this thing that apparently was very like common, which was dipping. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
So I think every religious person is basically the same, and we all think of the same sort of loopholes. Okay, so yeah, poop hole loophole is this one that's like, well, it's not strictly intercourse. So, and yes, it is. The other thing was this thing called or soaking. I think they called it soaking.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Where the male
I'll tell you why I know this.
penetrates the female. There's no pumping. You just soak. You're just soaking. Which
is that a thing? Did people
obscene.
do that?
Yeah, people apparently, now not in my group that I knew of. And guess what? That's also intercourse. So
Yeah.
you've done it. And I just don't understand these things where it's like, oh, that doesn't, yeah, it counts.
What about
are you
like
talking about?
blowjobs?
Right. Yeah. Still, I mean,
What about giving yourself a hand job?
right. So we call that, masturbation or self-abuse. Self-abuse, right? And so it is definitely common. I mean, statistically, right? What is it? Like 99.9% of all teenage boys do that at some point. Definitely happens. But it's not encouraged, right? So it's one of those sins that you should be talking to your bishop about and seeking help to prevent
not even think those thoughts
or stop, right?
We've all had the
training. In my faith, it wasn't necessarily don't think those thoughts. It was, there are certain thoughts we have that we can't control that just happen. There's an animalistic nature to all of us that we're trying to overcome. So it wasn't like you're punished for having the thought unless you're like seeking the thought, right? But if you're walking down the street or if you're looking at bubble porn, if you have something, that just comes into your head, you're not really judged for a choice you haven't made. You know what I mean? Or for something that happens that you haven't chosen.
I do remember that.
That's awesome. I wish the Catholic Church would take a note from that, because literally I remember being in 5th and 6th grade, and both years when we did the religious sex ed classes, they would be like, and if you think the thoughts, here are tools that you can use so that you don't think those thoughts, because those thoughts will send you straight to hell.
Right.
And I'm like 12 and I'm like, oh my God, what? I can't even
what are you talking about? Girls never have those thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm watching like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm like, I'm not allowed to have thoughts.
No, you just movie. I mean, he was a great swimmer. Not that great, but yeah. So we had strategy talks as well, but it was about getting the thoughts out. It wasn't about the judgment as having the thought. It was like, here's some sing a hymn to get that thought out of your head, or go for a run, or read some scriptures to prevent you
it also could have been that, and I just took it in the worst way.
Maybe, I don't know. But,
could have actually been that, and now like you're saying that, I'm like, maybe that's what they were trying to say.
Right. But maybe you had a really strict nun that was just like, no, if you even think that, you're bad. Which I've heard that too. I've heard that too. There was some terrible like youth lessons that happened in my faith, kind of, colloquially or generally. I never had these lessons, but one lesson was one that my sister-in-law had, where the female teacher, right, comes into young women's class. She's teaching a bunch of teenage girls, and she's made a big deal, like the week before. She's like, hey, I'm going to bring in a very special tea set. We're going to kind of have just a nice tea party next week, and we'll talk about some things. So she makes this big to-do about it. She brings in this tea set on Sunday, and they're sitting there talking about scriptures, and they're having a fun little tea set, right? A tea party in the Sunday school class. And then the teacher drops a teacup and breaks it after explaining, like, this is an antique set that my grandmother gave me. She drops the teacup and breaks it, right? And then is like, that is your virginity.
I knew it. I felt it coming, and I was like, no.
My dad had a lesson. I mean, and the end of this lesson is like, I can put the cup back together again, but it is never going to be the same.
Yep.
So, it's like, I guess physically, the hymen's broken. That's not the same. But can you be forgiven completely for a sin of premarital sex? Yeah, you can. Right. And it's like it spiritually, if you truly repent and are forget, it's like it never happened. Physically, there might be some issues, but spiritually, which is what really matters. But that part wasn't hit home to the girls. It was just,
That's actually the funny thing that you're talking about. That is that the school district where I taught and where I grew up, basically, they started teaching second virginity, which is just what you're saying, that if you make a pledge, you can reclaim your virginity. I'm like, in the school? They're teaching that in the school. And
that's
they were,
amazing.
I'm like, that's not allowed. There's a separation that's not occurring. But very
not
high Mormon
in
population.
Nevada.
Nope.
But you got detention for saying Jesus loves you no matter what?
I mean, there was a lot more to it. Yeah, it was
that was
very
in
much
science class.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Obviously.
It was very bad. I just remember because like with one kid, I was like, hey, like when you like don't study and you still pass a test, that's God. And
Wow.
I was just like,
sure.
Like I was just like, whatever it took to sell it. And then I would like read like whatever that love verse is from Corinthians, I would like read that when my friends would be like, I don't know if I like this girl or not. I'd be like, well, love is kind, love does not boast. Like I would read.
This is explaining so much, and this is kind of like a really short side story, but I sold cars after I graduated college in Reno, Nevada, and I was selling a car to this family. This girl was in the back seat during the driving test, and she was around my age. And then I don't know how it came up, but I said something about, she said she grew up in Fernley. And I was like, oh, did you go to Fernley High School? Duh. There's no other high school. You went to Fernley High School. And I was like, oh, do you know Drew Shafer? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's my boyfriend. And she looks at me and she like looks at me and she goes down and up. And she goes, I mean, I guess people can change. And I was like,
oh, man.
I was like, what does that mean?
Wow.
This is what it means.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was it.
Thank God.
Interesting. Well, good for you for changing, Drew.
I guess, yeah. I was annoying about it. That's the thing. I wasn't like easygoing.
He wasn't like a cool religious kid like you, Seth. You're a cool religious kid.
I understand that. Thank you. I understand. I think that's admirable, right? You're taking a stand, and it's like, no, this is the way that it is. This is the way that it is. And if it brings you happiness, and if you're not, bringing down other people, I guess, then great.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm happy he changed though, because he's because that sounded annoying.
Yeah. I mean, people who are really into anything can be annoying. Right?
Yeah.
If you have a Star Trek fan in your group and you're like, hey, Spock kind of sucks, it's not going to be fun.
Freak out. Yeah.
They're going to lose their
mind.
mind.
Every second they're like, did you guys, I want to tell you guys about this new Star Trek thing. And you're like, no one here cares about that. This is not your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrong place, pal. Wrong place.
Yeah. We're in church. Like,
yeah.
See what I did there? It all goes together.
I love that. That's great. Any other questions? Or no, did we, you're now converted and that's it. We've done it. Gave you all the answers.
I'm converted. After the you guys don't punish people for having sexual thoughts.
Right. Now, if you act on them, then you're getting punished.
Right.
But we don't.
We only have sex when we're only going to have sex when we decide to procreate. Otherwise, we both haven't even.
Sure. You know what's funny about that is there are people. Oh, did we lose you? So what's funny about that is that there are definitely couples that believe that wholeheartedly, that you can't have sex without
In the Mormon
actually
church?
conceiving. Yeah. I mean, it's not a widely. I should
That's
say
how I
this.
was raised too.
That is not a widely held belief, but I have heard of people going in and confessing to their bishop about having sex and not conceiving. I've also heard about people having sex, couples having sex and not getting all the way naked. So
that's
strange.
That's some handmaid's tale shit right there. That is
not widely held.
Okay.
I should say those are very, very crazy extreme views that are not held or taught.
Do you guys get
generally
naked
at all? Oh yeah, every chance we get, baby. Come on. Just the way God made us.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how you have to be in order to procreate, is be naked. Like you came in the world naked, you have to procreate naked.
It's the only good way to bring people into the world. That's it. Yeah. I wonder sometimes if heaven's just going to be a big nudist colony. I don't know.
Maybe we'll all be in our purest form.
That'll be my hell. That will be my hell.
Well, I sincerely believe the afterlife is going to be one where everyone is most comfortable. So maybe there will be a never nude portion of heaven just for people like you, Drew.
I hope so. I really do.
I hope that if there is a heaven, that my boobs hang to the floor. And I hope that I can why not? Let the titties fly, you know? I hope that they're my wings.
Sure. You want to fly backwards? I never quite understood.
Just on my back, I'll fly laying, basically I lay down
kind of thing.
Yeah, I lay down and then my titties are just
sure.
And I'm just
yeah.
This is an angel. Can you imagine
great.
me? Let me get both hands.
Oh my God.
It's beautiful. I mean, there's a painting waiting to be done of that.
Oh my God. I would love that so much.
So funny.
Just a nice
long
mantelpiece painting.
And what makes it better is that I am 6 feet tall, 6'1". So my boobs would have to be a solid, at least 5 feet.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
or at least 4 feet, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
4 foot long. Anyways, this was so much fun.
That's great. Guys, it's been so good to get to talk to you. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Anything you want to plug before we say the formal goodbyes? Anything you guys got going on?
Well, first off, thanks so much for having us. I've been looking forward to be on this podcast since you told me about it back in 2019. So
oh my gosh, I know, so long ago.
But thank you for having us on. For me, just my Instagram, Aurora Singh, Aurora the Disney princess, Singh every Punjabi you've ever met. And I post my upcoming shows on there. I post daily funny videos and content. So if you want to laugh a lot, that's pretty much where you would find everything. Drew and I are working on a new project. So that's where we would put out the announcement of when that's going to start. And then my TikTok is Aurora Singh with a 1 at the end because someone took Aurora Singh and she just made a ghost account. No followers, no posts, nothing.
Can we get you to replace Lily Singh? Could that happen?
I would be fine with it. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's just put that out in the universe that
yeah,
Aurora Singh is fine. Very little would have to change about the show other than the ratings, which would improve. So
yes, I'm for it. Instagram, Aurora Singh. I'm Aurora Singh on everything. You can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that's Aurora Singh, but it's called Health Actually. And it's basically about me being a fat girl living my best healthy life.
Good for you. Well, that's so fun. That's great.
Thanks. That's it.
Beautiful.
Nice.
All right, Drew, where can people find you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so Instagram and TikTok are the two that I'm trying to take off on, and I'm at Drew Shafer Comedy on both of those. And yeah,
Also daily funny content on both of those
Yeah.
platforms. So
we're trying. We're posting whatever we can find and all of our silly videos.
also, I just bought this new little mini microphone.
Oh, that's so fun. That's popped up in some of your videos already.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be slowly posting maybe some like at-home stand-up.
Nice. That's great.
It's gonna be great.
That's great.
Awesome.
But we'll be on the lookout for that.
Yes,
And you guys
definitely.
are in Sacramento? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes. Sacramento,
So
California.
Sacramento opening up soon? I mean, are you guys going to be back at the Punchline up there, or where are you guys going to be?
Yeah, so I have a show at the Laughs Unlimited Comedy Club at the end of April. It's a showcase show, so it'll be fun. Yeah, sometime near the end of April.
Same.
And,
Yeah.
Great.
And Laughs Unlimited is a local comedy club in Sacramento, and they've been pretty much open throughout the entire pandemic and have adapted really, really well. They do a silent comedy show, so it's outdoors and everyone gets headphones and you can just hear the comedian talking. So it's like a silent disco, but a comedy show.
yeah.
Oh, that's
so cool.
amazing.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you want to come to Sacramento and watch a comedy show, definitely support Laughs Unlimited because the owner of that club has been working so hard to keep comedians in business, and it's like just a godsend. So we're very thankful for that club.
Definitely. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I love it. You guys are two wonderful people, very talented comics. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight.
Thanks for
Seth.
having us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you guys take care, and hopefully we'll see you both very soon in real life.
Can you imagine?
Oh, boy.
All right, you guys have a good one.
All right,
You
you
too.
too. Bye.